Military leaders just shattered decades of tradition with a public letter that's sending shockwaves through Washington. A group of 38 active and retired military commanders, including 7 four-star generals, have formally refused to endorse Trump's authority as commander-in-chief in a joint statement released less than an hour ago. This isn't some quiet private dissent or carefully worded diplomatic disagreement. This is an unprecedented public rebuke from the very people whose careers were built on the principle of never challenging civilian leadership. And the fact that they're willing to go on record means the situation inside the Pentagon has reached a breaking point that most Americans don't even realize yet. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what's unfolding is going to dominate headlines for months. And you need to understand exactly what's happening before the spin machines on both sides starts rewriting the narrative. So what triggered this extraordinary move? According to the letter obtained by multiple news organizations at 3:47 p.m. Eastern Time today, these military leaders cite a pattern of decisions over the past 14 months that they claim subordinate national security to political objectives, undermine military readiness, and violate the fundamental compact between civilian leadership and the armed forces. The letter specifically references 3 incidents. First, the abrupt withdrawal order from a critical Middle East intelligence post in October, without consulting theater. Commanders reportedly issued hours after a campaign rally where Trump criticized the deployment. Second, the delayed authorization for a NATO joint training exercise in January that multiple sources say was held up because the commanding admiral had previously testified to Congress about budget shortfalls. And third, the most damning allegation, a directive from February 9th, instructing the Joint Chiefs to postpone emergency equipment shipments to a forward operating base until certain generals agreed to appear at a White House event celebrating military strength. This isn't about policy disagreements or standard civil-military friction. This is about using operational command as leverage for political theater. And that's a line these officers are saying can never be crossed. Smash that like button if you're starting to see why this matters so much. Here's the full context of what's been building. Tensions between Trump and senior military leadership have been simmering since his first term, fueled by disagreements over troop deployments, clashes with Pentagon officials over budget priorities, and repeated public criticisms of generals who didn't show sufficient personal loyalty. But everything changed, according to sources close to the Joint Chiefs, when a classified directive was leaked on February 11th to the Senate Armed Services Committee, showing direct White House interference with time-sensitive operational decisions. The directive, dated February 9th and allegedly bearing Trump's personal signature, reportedly orders a 72-hour delay on critical resupply authorizations for a base facing imminent threat assessment until 3 specific 4-star commanders agree to participate in a televised round praising administration defense policies. This wasn't about legitimate policy debate or normal command structure discussions. It was about holding military safety hostage for campaign optics. And here's where it really gets serious. When members of the Senate Armed Services Committee reviewed that directive in a secure facility on February 12th, they immediately recognized this crossed every conceivable red line. Senator Michael Thornton, a Republican from Virginia and former Marine Corps officer, reportedly told colleagues in the closed session that he had never seen anything like this in 40 years of military and public service, and that remaining silent would make them accomplices to a fundamental breach of constitutional duty. Meanwhile, Senator Patricia Chen, the Democratic ranking member from California, called the directive the most egregious abuse of commander-in-chief authority in modern history. By the time that 4-hour emergency session ended, 11 senators from both parties had agreed to formally request that the Pentagon Inspector General launch an immediate investigation. But before that request could even be filed, the military leaders themselves decided they couldn't wait for official channels. They took the extraordinary step of going public. Drop a comment right now if you saw this coming. I read every single one. Now things get absolutely wild. The letter signed by 38 current and former military leaders was released at a joint press conference held at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. at 3:30 p.m. today. Standing at the podium was General Marcus Caldwell, retired 4-star Army general and former Joint Chiefs Vice Chairman, flanked by Admiral Jennifer Hartley, retired Navy Thryer, who commanded the Pacific Fleet, and Lieutenant General Robert Hayes, retired Marine Corps officer, who led forces in 3 combat theaters.